Test. Alright, what's going on, guys? Sid here with another video, another update analysis on gbpusd. Kind of following from the previous one that I had done on my channel. If I just pull up YouTube here, I think I'll be able to put the link in the description. If you haven't seen part one, it's this pound dollar analysis breakdown video that I did on Tuesday. This is September 30th. A couple people did message me saying they liked the video. I thought I'll do an update since I did execute based off the analysis provided in the video. Here you can see I got the same daily chart. What we were practically looking at in that daily chart is, if I were to anchor the VWAP up from these highs, we were looking at the confluence of our mid VWAP in conjunction with this daily value gap in this strong downtrend. What we actually saw is this deviation, this curved off structure that took place while interacting with the confluence of these tools, of the FVG and the VWAP. That is essentially what we were looking for as a sell signal. What is important to note is on Wednesday, the day after I posted it, we did see a large spike into this area. However, daily closed back into the value gap and back below the VWAP. This spike was off the basis of NFP, if I'm not mistaken, some type of news-driven event. But daily closures all stayed intact, all stayed beneath the VWAP, all closed within our imbalanced structure, and henceforth I did look to execute sells. I did mention that I was looking for a run into these equal lows here, the confluence of the equal lows and this fair value gap that we have on the daily at 1.33300. Well, that is exactly what we got. We smashed below those lows, and now we have since attempted a reclaim of them with a daily closure back above them. It will be interesting to see how we open Monday morning or Sunday night. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. However, what I just wanted to firstly break down is on the daily, we got the bias correctly. We saw what we wanted to have, this short bias. We had the daily closures and this curved off structure. Hence, what we executed were the sells up from this 1.34850 zone, which on an hourly basis, you're going to see we have this value gap that we left on Thursday, October 2nd. This week on the Monday, we came back up. We firstly tested it on the Friday before the close. We came back up and we tested it again into the midpoint. That was actually a sweep of these highs that we formed on the Friday. So there was multiple factors of confluence on the lower time frame also. We moved back into the downside, my primary target being this 1.33235, which you'll see is more or less these lows that we have here and the lows that we formed at the end of September. Since we swept those lows, we pushed to the downside. I did take an executed long by myself on the Friday, but I'm not going to discuss that too much. I'm mainly going to discuss the short for now, and then how I'm going to approach it next week. So the short that I'd taken, I did take partials on the way down at the Monday low at 1.34150. I think it was about 33% of my position, and then I allowed the remainder to run all the way into our primary target of the end of September lows. It's a very, very simple trade where we use the confluence of our daily bias and the daily closures, what we're seeing on the daily. We use that in confluence with a basic lower time frame setup, a simple FVG and liquidity sweep on the Monday morning, or in the Monday New York session, sorry. Very simple stuff on GU. What I'm going to discuss now is break down the next potential trade setup. So as you can see on the daily, as I mentioned, we had the equal lows at the 1.33300. We swept them on Thursday and Friday. On Friday we had the reclaim. Okay, what I'd like to see on Monday as we open potentially into Tuesday is for us to demonstrate that this is going to be turned into our support. If we can turn the 1.3300 or the 1.3200 area into our support, then we could be looking for some type of relief rally. As I mentioned in the previous video, this area of 1.35880 is an area of gravitation for me. It's the confluence of these previous equal highs, this fair value gap. We have the top VWAP. Furthermore, if I were to anchor my fib zone from there, you'll see it's in the confluence of our 75% fib zone. We have a lot of areas, we have a lot of reasons to believe this area is going to be filled from a technical perspective. Furthermore, we just need some kind of relief. You know, it's been a pretty violent trend to the downside. Some type of relief would make a lot of sense before we eventually come down to this 1.31400 lows. So with that in mind, as long as we're staying above these daily lows, I'm going to have a long bias going into next week. In terms of regions, I'm going to target on the way up, other than the obvious 1.35880. Let's say we could execute from this zone. I'm going to be looking for firstly the retest of this daily region, the the mid VWAP and everything that we discussed early in this video and in the previous video too. The ultimate target is going to be up at the 1.35880. Stops will be either firmly below this low, however that's a pretty wide stop loss, so depending on how the price trades on Monday, I'll try to anchor it below the whatever lows that we form there, depending on how prices moving, how prices opening and whatnot. But going into next week, I am going to have this long bias. If we come down to the lower time frame and you ignored this long that I already had on and have already since executed, what you're going to see is that we pushed the downside, swept the lows on Friday morning, had a violent move to the upside, and in the meantime we have left this value gap here, the midpoint of which is perfectly aligning with our end of September lows. So what I would like to see on the Monday is something like this, where we're going to go up, take out the highs, we hold this area, and this is our long execution in the New York session for us to have this move to the upside. In terms of intermediary targets on the lower time frame, you're going to be able to see these highs here at the 1.33950. They're also in alignment with an imbalance that was formed on the Thursday London session. That's a potential intermediary target. We may not swing this trade all in one direction up to the daily 1.35880. We could do it in several parts. I would also like to note that the highs that we have up here, we firstly formed them in September 23rd, and again we tapped into them on October 1st. These are semi-equal highs. There's definitely liquidity to be ran above there, so that is another potential intermediary target of the 1.35300 zone. So if I were to pull this out and show you how this looks on the hourly time frame, it'd be something along the lines of this, where we'd be targeting up to here and potentially above 200 pips target. If we wanted to play the extension into our daily level, it would become 250-ish pips plus or minus. Stops would not be this far down. We'd probably put the stops below the fair value gap, depending on where the low of the day is formed on the Monday. That's how I'm actually looking at GU. So flipping my bias in this short term, in a sense, still using the daily as our confluence tool, still tracking the daily day by day, week by week, ensuring that the chart that I've used previously is still going to be relevant, which from what I'm seeing so far it is. So that is the bias that I have going into Monday. I would like to see this value gap filled, respected, and then we can have this push to the upside. Alternatively, if we're going to break down below this value gap and invert it, turn it to IFVG, I think people call them, then we could be looking for a full breakdown into the 1.31400 lows. If that is to occur, I may look for a momentum based trade. However, that's going to be something I have to take in the moment. I'm going to have to be looking at the order flow. I'm going to have to be looking at so many doing such real-time analysis to catch that trade. It's not something I'm going to prepare in a video like this. So if we are wrong, we're going to be wrong on the basis that we are not able to turn this FVG into our support. Furthermore, you'd see that on the daily we've tapped into the lower VWAP, one standard deviation below our mid VWAP. That would be turning it into resistance in a sense. So there is a reason as to why we may actually move to the downside from here, but with this equal low sweep and reclaim, I believe that push to the upside, some type of relief rally, looking into the 1.34750 and then the 1.35880 is what makes sense from a daily perspective, and we have a low time frame set up that we can use in confluence with it. So that's how I'm seeing GU. That's how I'm going to be looking to trade GU going into the start of next week. That is going to be all for me for the time being. As and when this setup matures or moves in our direction or whatever really occurs to it, I will probably make another video, and likely explain my reasoning, my theory, and how I'm looking to approach things next. But that is all for the time being. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and comment and subscribe and all that shit there. Send me a message on Instagram or whatever else. Any other content that you may want to see from me, then also let me know. I can look to get some things out as I have more time going into the end of this year. That's all from me for the time being. Cheers guys, thank you, trade safe.